Welcome in the room. If just quickly, if you've got the agenda or one bit of business before we get to our special presenter for the meeting, if you take a look at the agenda if you haven't already, and please see if there's any changes needed. If anybody would like to make a call for any edits or changes to the agenda.
Ryan is printing the agendas right now.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as he comes back.
Sounds good. Well, then let's do this. Why don't we skip the agenda and we'll do it after our guest presenter, because that's certainly not going to change at all. It is my privilege and honor here to welcome Douglas Kohler. Doug is our Erie County Historian, and we thought what perfect timing, especially with getting back together and finally getting away from the very nasty COVID pandemic to be talking about something that was perhaps initially overlooked because they were everything, but now is picking up steam, and that's the county's bicentennial, or EC 200. We have hit 200 years. We thought this would be a great opportunity to welcome Doug in, who is a big part, very instrumental in making all this happen, and he's going to share with you today just a quick little PowerPoint on what is it all about and how should we as public administrators get involved in the movement, and anything else that he'd like to share while he's here. So please, round of applause. Wow, a real round of applause. This is weird. This is not like Zoom for Doug Kohler. Doug, welcome. Thank you so much.
And on behalf of the county executive and the steering committee, thank you for inviting me. It is a little bit different. I teach, so it's county historian by night and teacher by day. And we're still, so I try to, do like I do in my classroom, get in the Zoom frame, because we in Clarence have the majority of our kids back, but I've still got 2 or 3 every period that are, remoting in from, but we do still have masks, so it's nice to actually see faces. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing with the bicentennial, and exactly right, we had started planning about 3 years ago, and none of us had envisioned planning a bicentennial in a pandemic. So this is obviously threw a wrench into our plans. We actually met on Leap Saturday a year ago, and then 2 weeks later, the world shut down. And so we have not yet had our first in-person planning meeting in over a year. We're still doing all our work by Zoom. But next Wednesday, we'll be meeting at the Darwin Martin House as the steering committee and planners to get ourselves rolling and actually see each other again. So I understand that joy of, shedding the mask and at least, in beginning to gather in person. So we began planning about 3 years ago. The charge from the county executive was to really kind of focus on education. And that's really, although I'm not sure the beer fits into that. You can take that either way. We'll talk about that in a minute. But our focus has really been to severalfold, to promote sort of an awareness of Erie County, the fact that, on April 2nd, 1821, Erie County became its own separate entity. So you may ask, well, what was it before that? Before that, we were part of Niagara County. So the town of Cambria was all of what is today modern Niagara County. Clarence was all of northern Erie County down from Tonawanda Creek to the Indian Reservation. Then you had Buffalo Creek Reservation. And then a town called Willink was to the south. And those 3 towns, Willink, Clarence, Cambria, were Niagara County. On April 2nd, 1821, the state legislature said there are enough people out there. We need to subdivide, and so Clarence, Willink, and the reservation became Erie County. One of the questions I always get is, why is it April 2nd? And of course, the popular answer is, well, why would you make the county on April 1st, April Fool's Day? Well, that isn't why it was April 2nd. April 1st in 1821 fell on a Sunday. And so, of course, no municipal work would have been conducted on that point. So we became official on the following Monday, April 2nd, 1821. As we began...
I was like just watching it in slow motion, trying to catch it before.
Talk about being a poor guest. In fact, I was thinking I was going to slide over here. No, then I'm not afraid. No, I'm not. I'm going to stand here and be very careful. So when we began planning, one of the things we were cognizant of is we're dealing with 27 municipalities, 2 sovereign Native American territories. And one of the things we wanted to think about was, how do we begin to look at this in a way that's inclusive? Because that was, in addition to education, the county executive's second charge is, we don't want it to just be a celebration of Buffalo or of Amherst or of Clarence, which is the oldest of the towns in the county, but how do we get all 27 towns and the 2 Indian reservations and, the 3 cities all engaged? And our concern was that if we broke it up into 50-year chunks, your first 50-year chunk would exclude most of the county. So rather than go chronologically, we decided to look at things in more of a thematic sense. What are the broad themes that approach all people in Erie County that everybody has a part of as you look at our story? So we looked at access and transportation, which of course here in Amherst, and of course across the northern tier of the county is a big deal because you have Tonawanda Creek, but from Amherst across Tonawanda, it's the Erie Canal, which was a huge industrial boom. It was a huge transportation boom. It moved people back and forth. It moved ideas back and forth. But it isn't just the Erie Canal. While that's, the logo will reappear, we obviously have paid, homage to the Erie Canal because that's important. It's more than that. Across the center of the county, you have major railroads, the New York Central, the West Shore. And then into the southern part of the county, you had smaller railroads that connected towns. So that was another way to look at it. Roads, how did we progress from, the canal to modern road systems to, especially as you get into World War II, transportation of the aircraft. So we figured that was a theme that all towns and all constituent groups could perhaps access, if you'll excuse the pun. Pioneers in innovation. And again, we wanted that to be not the first settler in each region, but in other words, pioneers in what? So we think of Clarence, you have Wilson Greatbatch, who was a pioneer for the implantable pacemaker. Recently, I've been working on with the Hauptmann Woodward Institute on Dr. Hauptmann, who was a pioneer in X-ray crystallography, and that's about as far as I, a humble historian, get with the science behind it. But I know that the people at Hauptmann Woodward it's a fascinating thing, and they began with a whole bunch. The short on X-ray crystallography, if you don't know, is Dr. Hauptmann came up with a formula that allowed literally an X-ray of a molecule, and they could take a disease or an illness and they could get the molecular vision of it, and then they could use formulas to figure out how pharmaceuticals would interact with the illnesses they were studying to make the pharmaceuticals more effective. And what they've been doing during the pandemic, they're still working largely remotely, but in the lab, they're working on COVID-19. They're getting samples from all over the world to use X-ray crystallography to make the vaccines more effective. So pioneers in all sorts of different things. And with that goes innovation, which is, one of the key stories of Erie County, and all of the different fields that we have been and continue to be pioneers in. Agriculture and industry, from the city standpoint, from some of the first ring towns, you have significant industries from grain milling and grain elevators to, the biotech corridor of today. But we also wanted to not forget that it's agriculture, that as you move out into Marilla and Alden and down into the southern tier, Springville and the towns along Cattaraugus Creek, agriculture remains an important part of our cultural heritage. Culture and leisure, because, as communities, as groups, we are Bills fans. Someday we'll be proud Sabres fans. I think right now we're suffering Sabres fans. We've got the Blue Jays playing down at the stadium. So that's an important part of who we are as a county. It isn't just, the nuts and bolts history, but all of the different things that make us the county that we are. Reform and revolution is an important one because I think a lot of times we miss the reform movements that started here, the Niagara movement. We had one of the first daycares in the United States built down in the city to accommodate the women that were working along the Canal District. So they had someplace for the children to go during the day, the Fitch Creche, as it's called. And revolution. So starting in the 60s, right up, there are demonstrations for racial justice, demonstrations against the Vietnam War. There are LGBTQ activists that come from Buffalo. Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African-American woman to run for president, lived in Williamsville. After she retired for Congress, she married a man from Williamsville, and they lived there until she died. So she's an important part of our heritage. So all of those things, and then neighbors and community. And one of the things that we've been doing is with the History Museum is we are putting together a new exhibit. So if you know the museum, upstairs, there's the neighbors exhibit that's been there forever. And it is actually, they've closed it and it is now being uninstalled. And on October 14th, we will unveil a new exhibit called Continuum, which is, we thought, a really good way to look at the history of our county. And we're going with a brand new exhibit. And we've tried to do it thematically. And one of those themes we've tried to look at is this idea of neighbors and community and immigration. And we think of it as, first the New England people from New England came, and then the Irish came to build the canal, and then you had Germans and Poles, and then you have other waves of immigration as well, and it's still going on. So if we look at immigration in the 2000s, we've got movements of people from Southeast Asia, Central Africa, and the Middle East that continue that continuum of immigration throughout Erie County. So we're approaching this as themes, and we're asking groups and organizations to sort of latch onto a theme that makes sense. Say, how do we fit into not the timeline, but the themes of who we are as a county? In terms of how we're structuring and ways in which you might be interested in getting involved, with the county executive sort of imprimatur, we have formed a series of committees to sort of address what we think will be the things that need to be done between now and April 2nd, 2022. So rather than just keeping the bicentennial in 2021, we're taking it a year from the date the county was included. So we're going to go all the way through next April with the events and things that we're doing. So we have an education and programming committee. So we're working, obviously that was our initial charge. So we're working with the schools to get information to teachers, to get it in the hands of the students so that they as families can go out now as we move through the summer and become engaged in, I'll show you the passport, which is our big summer activity and that we think really will be the one that engages families. We have a huge social media presence. You saw, and you'll see again, even in the logo where our hashtag is EC200. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter page, we have an Instagram page. And we're asking people as you move through and do events to tag them and we will like them back in return. It's been actually really very successful in terms of getting a lot of publicity. And again, that exchange of how are people celebrating this? How are we trying to set up events for people to engage in? Of course, there's a marketing committee, there's a business committee, and we're very big on making sure we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. If you know Kaz Rodriguez with the Hispanic Community Organization, Kaz is the chair of our DEI committee. So what are we doing? We're doing a bunch of stuff. As said, we've been a little slowed by the pandemic, but we've gained steam, especially after Mark tapped a keg of beer, and I'll tell you more about that story in just a minute. But we are working on programming. There is programming through the libraries. The library system is one of our major partners, and certainly probably the partner with the most reach because, as we're a stone's throw from the library here in Amherst, every community has a library. So we're disseminating information through the library. It's a resource point, and some of the programming that is beginning will take place in some of the local libraries. We're working on a passport program. I'll show you that in just a minute. I brought some blowouts of that. We have a bicentennial beer because we once upon a time had over 80 breweries in Buffalo. So what better way to say Erie County than with our own bicentennial beer? In terms of sort of how we're approaching this, we're not asking for communities, groups, organizations to reinvent the wheel. We're not saying go out and make a bicentennial event, but rather we're suggesting that the synergy comes from rebranding events that exist. So we've already had a rebranded event with the Buffalo Philharmonic. The first weekend in June, they did a bicentennial patriotic music concert. So it was one that was on their schedule, and they simply reached out to us and said, this makes sense to us to be a bicentennial event. It was on our event calendar, and that became sort of thematic. It wasn't that the Philharmonic said, we're going to do a special concert. This is one that makes sense for us to pair with what's going on with the bicentennial. Now, speaking of, in case you're wondering, where do we find bicentennial information? It's a great question. We're working with Visit Buffalo Niagara. They have a calendar page that is specifically dedicated to bicentennial events. And again, some of them are uniquely bicentennial. I've been doing a series of historic walks in the town of Clarence. And so those are on there. A colleague of mine, a woman I wrote a book with, just did one in the Medaille College neighborhood. So there are a lot of historic walks. There are speaker series. We've got one that's starting at the end of this month. I believe it's June 30th. We're calling it Last Wednesdays at Roycroft, where there will be speaker series and activities and engagement. Roycroft is working on developing an outdoor venue at the Roycroft campus. And so in June, it'll be an LGBTQ theme. In July, women's suffrage and the women's, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'll do my best, women's monument. The county has a committee that is working on monuments to groundbreaking women in the county. And so they will be presenting both on our connections to suffrage and also this movement. I believe there's going to be a panel talking about the women that are being honored through this monuments movement. And then in August, the Michigan Street Corridor Musicians Club will be doing jazz at Roycroft. So these things will be going on as we go. And then really the best clearinghouse is we have a website. So EC200, erie.gov/EC200. And so there are links there to the calendar. There are links to the passport program. But before I get to that, we may as well talk a little bit about beer. One of the first partner organizations was to step up was Flying Bison, Tim Herzog. And he was in discussions with us back in, and this is where COVID gets us. I want to say back in the fall, but that seems like 5 years ago. But back in the fall, we got in discussions with Tim, and he said he would be happy to do a bicentennial Pilsner for us. Now, you may notice it's called Parks and Rec. I don't think I've got a picture of the bottle, but you will see pictures of the bottle around. It's called Parks and Rec Pilsner because throughout the summer, Flying Bison, Resurgence, and several other local breweries are doing pop-up events at the county parks. And so Tim decided that since they would be out and about this summer with the beer, that they would call it Parks and Rec Pilsner. And back on May 14th, we had, I don't know, I'm not a big beer drinker, though I did manage to put down a glass while I was there at Flying Bison. But apparently beer has to cure, it has to mature, I don't know. And so Tim said, on May 14th, it will be ready. And so Mark actually took the mallet, made beer fly all over the place, tapped the keg, and it was distributed. Now, the cool thing is, it's already sold out at Flying Bison. So Tim is going to drop another batch, but at the moment, he doesn't have tank space. No one ever envisioned that it would move as quickly as it did. But if you're really interested, how do I find out about this Parks and Rec Pilsner? It is whatever is left out there is at Wegmans, Dashes, and Consumers. I know I picked up a 6-pack about a week ago at our Dashes, largely as a historian, so I could have the bottles for future reference. It's important as a historian that we archive these things for the past. So that's one of our big ones, and you'll see that, as I know my Dashes on Klein has still got some on the floor. But this is kind of what got us our initial, really kind of got us that first push. We did a kickoff in March, but it was 9 of us and an empty auditorium at the library and a couple of members of the press. When we got to Flying Bison, things had started to change. We were able to, be in a tent outside unmasked with a much larger group, and it got us both new, coverage in the Buffalo News and on Channel 2. Now, I've been having video issues, and I'm hot-spotting my phone, so let me see if I can make this work.
Erie County is celebrating a birthday with a beer, and at age 200, you probably don't have to worry about showing an ID.
That's right. County leaders were over at Flying Bison today to tap the first keg of EC200 Parks and Rec Pilsner. I love that name. That was brewed up specially for the anniversary. It was brewed in Eden, and you can find it around town and at local stores. Erie County was officially recognized by the state on April 2nd, 1821. So happy belated birthday.
Erie County is celebrating a birthday.
I don't know why I do that. So really good press. Something that popped through my mind while the hops are for me. Tim brewed it at Flying Bison, but it is brewed with local hops. And so apparently it's not a big beer guy, but there is one hops farm in Erie County, and it's in Eden. So Tim was able to get some of those hops to use them to brew the bicentennial Pilsner. Last thing, and then I'll see if you have any questions, and then I will let you carry on. This is kind of our big organization. This is kind of our big summer push. So we did a kickoff in March. We tapped the keg in May. And this is really what we envision to use getting people to travel throughout the county. It's what we were referring to as the Heritage Passport. And this is how we really address Mark's initial goal to make sure we're including everybody. So with the passport, it encourages people to, it does. Oh, this happens after I video sometimes. There we go. So this encourages people to travel to all the towns throughout. Now, what you'll notice when you get a passport, you're thinking, where do I get them? I did not. We're still in our first run, so we're working on distributing to our partners, but you can find them at every county public library branch has some. All of the participating heritage organizations have some. And as we get into our second printing at the end of the month, we will have them for wider distribution. But if you go to Erie County 200, erie.gov/EC200, we have a link to the PDF. We also have a link so that if you'd rather do it on your phone virtually, you can do that as well. So you don't have to wait till you get one in your hand. You can pick it up electronically as well. but our goal was to drive traffic to organizations throughout the county that might not otherwise, get the same attention as exploring more the Science Museum, the Teddy Roosevelt site, the History Museum. So what it encourages people to do is to visit all of the local smaller heritage organizations throughout the county, the Clarence Historical Society, the Tonawanda Kenmore Historical Society. And then to encourage people to go and actually see the places, each page has a stamp spot, and each organization has got hours when they'll be open and available to stamp the passports. And then what we'll do is in October, there'll be a redemption day. So people are encouraged if they go to a venue and it's closed, to take a selfie and then post that to social media. And then in October, come in and tell us on redemption day, show us what you did, show us some of your selfies. And we're working right now on, I guess we call it a challenge coin. I think that's the frame of reference. It's a commemorative coin. It'll have the bicentennial logo on the front, a laser etching of County Hall on the back, and that will be sort of the commemorative keepsake for the people that spend some time over the next 5 months doing some of the events within the passport. We're also working on developing a passport for city organizations particularly. We went with the sort of outer ring first because a lot of the city culturals already have a presence. People know where the History Museum is. They know where Albright Knox is, or the Naval Park, or those sorts of things. So we're going to do a second passport, but it will focus more on neighborhoods, communities, and just sort of tangentially hit the larger culturals that people are already, are in people's wheelhouse already. With that, I guess, so passports are our next event. In the fall, the Continuum exhibition will open on October 14th. And then as we pass into the winter, when people aren't going to be out as much, that's when we'll be hitting a little bit more of the program. So there will be events at the Downtown Library, Buffalo History Museum, but they're also programming throughout, as we said, at Roycroft. Canal Side is doing programming for, I love this expression, little learners. So instead of calling, as a teacher, I teach middle school kids, but I love that, little learners. So there's Canal Side, they're doing programming starting in early July at Canal Side. So lots of things happening with the bicentennial. It's gained a lot of momentum since, since Mark was at Flying Bison and really got good coverage. We're still looking for people to be engaged in all parts. So especially as you think about the committee structure, if you're thinking about this and thinking, this is any one of those is a place that you might have interest in. You have my email. Please feel free to. I was going to throw it on a slide, and I apologize. I didn't. I was teaching remotely today and got away from me. But you have my email. If someone says, hey, how do we? Please feel free to send out my email. Shoot me an email. We'll get you in touch with the committee chair of, also locally. Every town has a cultural organization that is engaged already with us in planning and as a partner. And certainly they are looking for volunteers to step up and be engaged on a town level or even a village level as we move forward through the bicentennial. So that's where we are. That's what we're doing. It's just, we're like everybody else, slowly crawling out of COVID, but we feel like we've picked up a lot of momentum in the last couple of months as we roll in. So, and we've got till next April, plenty of time. Does anybody have any questions? Anything about sort of our planning, our process?
Actually, just wondering if we might be able to get your slide deck afterwards, and that way we have it for reference, and I'll include it with your contact.
I will put a slide in there with my email at the end, and I'll share that with you. Absolutely.
Good. Share that with everyone.
Great. Yeah.
Are your committee meetings are they still virtual?
So what? Yes. Well, there will. I would imagine that for the foreseeable future there will always be a virtual element to it. So we're already talking about. So we'll be outside at the Darwin Martin House. Luckily, right now the weather looks good. But we will have. So I'll bring my laptop, a speaker, and sort of a wireless input, so that we will create a Zoom. So it's going to be a hybrid situation. And I imagine that for the foreseeable future, there will be people more comfortable with that hybrid element. So we can, if you're interested, we'll get you the Zoom link. We use the History Museum Zoom link, and that's easy to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's great. Excellent. Well, again, thank you for the invitation to come and share a little bit about what we're doing.
Thank you again.
Great. Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Pull this so you have.
All right, so far,
that.
there we go.
Now that's going over there.
And for our Zoom folks who are joining us, I'm going to go ahead and move back a little bit here so we can get a little bit more. That should be good. Okay. Sound and everything coming in all right, everyone? Good. All right. Excellent. Thank you again. Good way to start the meeting and hopefully a little bit of inspiration to enjoy the outdoors even more and celebrate our history, get out and see everything that this county has to offer. Maybe even get involved a little bit too with the planning. So we're going to jump back one thing to be here on the agenda, which is just the approval and changes. We've got them printed now, and just want to take a second here and Zoom peeps. Please feel free to chime in if there are any requests for changes, and if not, if I can have someone to make a motion to approve. Moved. And any changes before we do that?
I'll
All right, second.
second.
Rosie, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good. Agenda approved. Now we
Tony,
Yes.
can you, when you have a motion and a second, could you announce who made them so we can?
Sure. Absolutely. And we had the motion from Brian Bray and seconded from Rosie Noble. So yes, we'll do that. Thank you for reminding me.
Sounds good.
We'll move now to our annual awards portion. And this is something that with many thanks to the aforementioned Rosie that we started last year at our annual meeting. So we, and of course, it happened virtually. So we're happy to do a little bit of hybrid this year. We have 3 wonderful categories, as you can see here. And I don't have the full descriptions written up, but they are available on our website, exactly what each entails. As you can see here, we have government administration, public administration, education, and nonprofit administration. So with that, and Rosie, I'm not sure if you need it, but I do have the original remarks, the entries printed. You need to reference, otherwise if you have them, great.
If you could provide me with that,
Got
that'd
it.
be great,
Yep.
but I just kind of wanted to.
Wonderful. Yeah, here's actually the other one too for later. So
Okay.
yeah, so we'll start with Rosie for our awardee for excellence in government administration.
So the government administrator, excellence in government administration. It's been a long day. I apologize. My mouth is no longer connected to my brain. To recognize a non-elected professional administrator displaying professional integrity, high moral character and reputation, who fostered a more democratic society, served as a champion of social equity, improved the way a government agency operates, and served as a role model for other public servants. This year's awardee is Oswaldo Mestre from the city of Buffalo, Director of the Division of Citizen Services. He was appointed in 2006. He has developed and directed the 311 call center and has led the creation of the Operation Clean Sweep program, which utilizes public-private partnerships to target Buffalo's neediest neighborhoods with both direct services and information regarding future services. He's led a whole variety of different programs throughout the city throughout the years. But this past year, he really stood out on March 20th, 2020, when Mayor Brown, together with elected officials across New York State, instituted capacity limits within the government buildings. And suddenly the operation of the 311 resolution and call center was disrupted at a time when people needed it most. And in response, under Oswaldo's leadership, the Division of Citizen Services, in collaboration with Cisco WebEx and 2B, established a mobile call center in the course of 48 hours. And for that, we're giving this year's award to Oswaldo Mestre.
Very much. Say a few words.
You may.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just say thank you very much. I actually wrote something down. I didn't do that. I do want to say thank you. I can't accept anything without first initially saying thank you to the board and to fellow administrators. What makes it so special, and many people know me, know that it's really not the plaudits, it's really not about plaudits and all of the recognition that the administrators we do. We have our direct supports who are visionaries, who want the world. It's our job to make wine out of water when we can. And when we can't, it's our job to be honest with them, to say why we can't do it. And so general sense of integrity and being purposeful about the work that we do is important. And so I enjoy, and I want to say thank you to Mayor Byron Brown for putting me in a position to try to make the magic happen. I also want to say thank you to former Mayor Anthony Masiello for believing in a young kid. I still think I'm a young kid. Shares that, what was that hypothesis? But also, you can't say thank you to the people who supported you as well. You want to say thank you to the people that you've been able to serve as well. And so I've been very fortunate to have people who I have led, people that I've encouraged, sometimes people that I've had to push a little stronger than you had to, you know. And each one of those instances, you learn something along the way. And again, I talked about the general sense of having integrity about the work that you do, listening to people, putting people first, being people-centric is important. And no matter where and what you're doing, having that general sense of your place. And that's a very important thing. I think we can't forget that as administrators. I came into this understanding a little bit different. I went to UB. My alma mater was right around the corner here. I studied architecture. Can't still tell me that I'm not an architect in some type of way, but I also took some classes in public policy and administration, and that's what I ended up getting my degree in. But it gave me a general sense of looking at the built world and looking at people and how we are designers in some type of, but we have to implement programs and systems, and we've been able to do that for the city of Buffalo. So again, I'm displeased in this field that we talk about government. You know, I'm a firm believer in municipalities and cities and where the magic happens, where the rubber hits the road, where you can go to the store and you can see somebody that saw you on TV and say, "Who are you? You know, what can you do?" And I think that's the push and pull that we have as administrators. So again, I want to say thank you. The last thing I want to say that's fortuitous. One of my favorite public officials said this quote, and it's something that I live by. It says, "You do not make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas." And that was said by Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. And so again, I just want to say thank you. You've already heard her Western New York roots. And again, I just want to thank you for this award. Thank you very much.
You got it. Perfect. Thanks. I'll get that. All right. It's my privilege and honor here to take part for Public Administration Educator of the Year. The write-up is as follows. It's to recognize a higher education student, teacher, administrator, volunteer, or organization that has demonstrated scholarship and leadership in public administration or a closely related field of study, or has made a noteworthy contribution to the education of public administrators or made a significant contribution to advancing the public administration field of education. And I will just say that for our awardee here, he's done all that and more. And if there's, I'll read some of my prepared remarks here, but if there's anything to take away from Dr. Jason Rivera is that he, for this past year, and of course beyond that, but especially this past year, gone above and beyond and has really been out there. So if you can take anything away, it's that. So as I said here, he's had nothing short of an outstanding and remarkable year for the betterment of public administration education. For our chapter in particular, he definitely, he's very active on social media, which we're thrilled about. His posts really, when he tags, shares, gets the word about things that we're doing. It reaches national audiences. It helps. And he actually, by what he's doing and what he brings to the table, also informs us about news and events that we might have otherwise missed. For example, he represented our chapter and really the region admirably as part of a national online panel called Dismantling White Supremacy, which was hosted by ASPA's section on democracy and social justice, of which he's a member. He also represented our chapter during ASPA's national conference for 2021, presenting on delivering effective policies and services that support minority and underserved people. And then last but not least, he enthusiastically accepted the role working with us as the moderator for a panel discussion on COVID-19 that kicked off the 2021 Public Service Recognition Week conference, which we co-sponsored with SUNY Buffalo State. But beyond all that, and just, you know, being out there, being active, being present, he really continues to make valuable contributions both to SUNY Buffalo State and the educational field as a whole. Thanks to his efforts, he's going to be spearheading a new advanced certificate program this fall in disaster and emergency management, really his specialty. He's also serving as an editor for an upcoming special issue of the journal Public Integrity, and it's specifically about broadly integrating critical race theory as an analytic lens in public and nonprofit management. So it's okay. Personally speaking, when I had Dr. Rivera as an instructor in 2017, my penultimate class before the MPA project, his rigorous academic standards really took my project to new heights. And you know, he's challenging but fair, and he always makes himself available for students. He really loves to help students grow, and it shows. So in closing, I'm not sure if he's a scholar or a machine, maybe both, but joking aside, he eats, breathes, and sleeps public administration. He's constantly publishing, constantly assisting others, constantly representing both SUNY Buffalo State and ASPA, and quite simply, he's just constantly doing. I can think of no one more deserving of this award at this moment in time, and it's an honor and privilege to nominate you, Dr. Jason Rivera, as our awardee for excellence in public administration education for 2021. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah. With Photoshop, Terminator, his face, boom, you're welcome. I really would like to thank the board for nominating me and presenting me with this. But honestly, it's the students that I should thank, most of which, good majority of them I see in front of me here. All of you guys I like, right? No, in all honesty, I do as much as I do, I feel as though it's not enough. We're always, public administration, nonprofit management is a field that we have to continue to work on, continue to progress in. And as we saw this year with what occurred in DC on the Capitol stairs within the Capitol House, our work is in dire need at this current point in time. So as much as I can do to progress moving forward in any type of way, I'm here. And my students, thank you so much. I'm here for you guys. My door is always open. Thank you.
Then our final award is for Nonprofit Administrator of the Year, to recognize a nonprofit administrator displaying professional integrity, of high moral character and reputation, who fostered a more democratic society, served as a champion of social equity, improved the way a nonprofit organization operates, and served as a role model for nonprofit workers. This year's awardee is Dr. Myron Glick. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us today, but I do believe there's a representative from his staff, and it really, as you will listen to the nomination, it is really an award for the whole Jericho Road administration and their whole board, with Dr. Myron Glick leading that board. Jericho Road was founded in 1997 as a family practice. From its beginning, it was caring for both many new Americans, including many refugees, but also the neediest native-born Americans in Buffalo. In 2003, recognizing that many of the, especially the refugee population, had needs beyond those that were strictly medical. Jericho Road Family Practice developed into Jericho Road Ministries, incorporating in services for pregnant mothers, helping clients navigate social services, and providing interpretation support. In 2009, Jericho Road Ministries merged with Hope Refugee Services to become Jericho Road Community Health Services, and in 2015 acquired Vive La Casa to provide safety, shelter, food, and legal assistance to asylum seekers trying to make refugee claims in Canada. In 2015, there's a lot here. This has been a very busy organization. Jericho Road opened health centers in Sierra Leone and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and a new health center on Buffalo's east side in the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood of Buffalo, which includes a medically oriented gym offering both traditional gym services and also physical therapy. And that is up to 2020 when the pandemic hit. In spite of the pandemic, Jericho Road has continued to serve both the east and west sides of Buffalo, Sierra Leone, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Not only continuing to service, but expanding services with a new clinic within the Buffalo City Mission, a new clinic in Sierra Leone, and a dental facility in the Broadway Fillmore facility. Another thing that has happened this past year is, rather than taking a step back from the pandemic, they really took on the pandemic head on by offering COVID-19 PCR and antibody testing and outdoor community testing events all across Western New York, and especially in Buffalo. Implementing telehealth options for current and new patients to maintain preventative health and medical treatment. They continue to work tirelessly to secure vaccines and distribute them within the east side and west side neighborhoods throughout the whole pandemic. And so there's the award for
Thank you to everyone who's here. My name is Dr. Anna Mongo. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Jericho Road. I gotta be honest, hearing everything we do actually makes me get a little bit teary-eyed. And when you say we work tirelessly, I'm very tired. It has been a year, and it actually is very exciting that we announced on our Facebook page today that we will only be doing COVID-19 testing for our patients. And we are directing everyone else back to the county. Which maybe shouldn't seem as exciting to me as it does, but I think it's this moment that for us feels like maybe there's an end in sight to this pandemic. This year has been a really tough year. As she said, we always have prided ourselves as an agency as trying to find the most vulnerable and the most marginalized populations and standing alongside them as we move forward in what we're doing. And this year, I mean, we were just right in the middle of it. Our clinics are right in the middle of the most diverse parts of town, in the lowest income parts of town. We had expansion plan that got delayed that we went forward with. It really has been an exciting and tough year. We're actually opening, we had originally closed our Genesee site. We reopened in a new location right across the street. So our Doe clinic opened up or reopened a couple weeks ago. We're expanding a Barton location to include students and residents so we can not only provide services, but we can help medical students understand why we do what we do and how we do what we do. We so appreciate, that it doesn't take Dr. Glick standing alone. It takes the whole team behind him. The people who are giving the care, the people who are organizing the care, the people who are making sure we get paid for whatever services we can actually get paid for, because that tends to be the last thing we think about and not the first. So thank you so much for thinking of us. Thank you so much for honoring, what Jericho Road has done this past year.
Yeah, let's do that. We quickly ask, I'm sorry, if I get the 3 awardees. photo of
We can
should
turn
be
the light.
together.
Yeah, the light.
Yeah, that would be great. Do we want to turn off the
There we go.
the monitor real
Yeah, we
quick
should
so
do
we don't
that.
have a blue background? Yeah.
Do you want us to hold these while?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Take them out of the plastic or?
You can take them out of the plastic if you'd like. Yes, that's an option as well.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Use the filter.
I'm gonna follow his advice.
You're getting the one with all kinds of lipstick and
Now that a quick round of applause again. For our Zoom folks, I'm actually going to turn the computer this way because instead of standing here in front of everyone, I figure we'll make this a little bit more casual, like a little bit more of a round table to go through some of the items before we conclude the meeting with the very important elections. So quickly for our board, I know we did just receive the minutes just a little while ago from Marissa, who sent via email. She says hello, of course. So let's start very briefly by take a minute to look over April. And I'll just say that if there's any major typos or whatever, I can just quickly clean those up before they upload to our website.
Still have the penny. Hold on. Don't take, you still have the penny, thank goodness.
Oh, yes.
I wish to state that I was present because I reminded people about awards and descriptions later, so I must have been present at the meeting.
You were at the meeting, so we'll add that in.
So I move to accept the minutes amended to include me in the attendance.
Okay, so noted. So we've got a movement with that correction by Rosie. May we have a second?
A second.
And second by Brian Bray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. April minutes approved with that change. And then going on to May. I can tell you one thing that I'm going to take out, which I know was just a funny thing, and I said don't put this in the minutes, and she put it in. But I think we can take out the part on page 2 where in parentheses it said Tony said crab load. Yes, funny, but we don't need it officially in the minutes.
Yeah, I think delete that.
Yeah.
Gordy's being reappointed, right?
What's that?
Gordy is being reappointed.
Yes.
So it says Gordy did not want to be reappointed.
It says Gordon is staying on. Ray is not going to be appointed.
Oh, there's another line of higher.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we need to change it to will or does want to be. Same thing with Hughes. It's does want to be. Will be appointed as being. Yeah, there's a couple typos in here, but we'll make those changes for who expressed interest in being reappointed. A couple of typos, and then obviously deleting crap load. Please don't put that in the next minutes, whoever's doing this. With
You said
those
it like 4 times.
Yeah. With those changes, may I have a motion to approve with the edits?
I'll make.
Oh, okay. Moved by Brian and seconded by Rosie. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any or nays, abstentions? Okay, so with those changes, we'll make them and then approve the May minutes with those changes. So good, we've got those, and we should be back for the next meeting when whatever that's going to be. I don't know yet. Let's go into our officer reports. So I'll start first on both the president and communication side of things. I'll actually start first with the communication side of things, just to briefly say we've certainly been keeping things humming in terms of our social media updates, keeping the web updated. Plenty of e-newsletters have gone out, both for just general news, as well as of course promoting the annual meeting, our committees, committee meetings. So lots of communication, and the e-newsletters in particular for this event really drove the traffic. As much as we tried, all of us in the committee, to make the social media really resonate, and it did get some traction, especially on Twitter. It was really the e-newsletters that drove people to register. So something we'll be keeping in mind. I'm actually going to, and we may even want to do this for future meetings. We may even want to combine the officer and committee reports, because otherwise it's kind of saying a lot of the same things twice. So I'm actually gonna take the liberty and sort of jump ahead to number 2 on the communication committee front, and just say that we had it was a great meeting. Myself, Rosie, and Michael yesterday. Actually, we had to postpone it. We each had a couple things that came up when we met, and a lot of great ideas in a short period of time. We're going to be building a pool of evergreen posts for social media. So in addition to just commenting on what's timely or events, we want to build a pool that we can have at least a couple every month that we can pull from, just to tout things such as the benefits of membership and what we're all about. Just subtle reminders to make sure that our messages continue to be steady on all of our platforms. We did discuss briefly the possibility of, should we add Instagram. We're gonna table that for now and see if we can get together other things to grow. Michael has taken it on, as you can see here, to sort of be our unofficial photographers of sorts. And we think that photography, video, all those things will be a great way to continue to capture them, especially now as we're all together again, mostly together again in person. So we have that, a really great idea kind of organically through all of us, which we're going to brainstorm a little bit more and then bring it to a future board meeting, is potentially doing some type of award/scholarship program to really reach out to students who are getting ready to graduate, potentially, if we get the approval and however we decided, potentially even subsidizing a year's student membership. So that way we kind of keep the interest growing, especially at the student side. It's something we'll work closely with on membership too. But the idea is just germinating for now, but there was definitely a lot of interesting things discussed, and plenty we could do on a communication standpoint to be reaching out and just making sure that students know what we have to offer and be excited about the group. So a lot more to come on that front, and then of course the Western New York Feud event, which has been rescheduled for September 16th. What I can say for everyone is that even though we'll be sort of taking a little bit of a break, especially as summer's coming, we as a committee will be really ramping up efforts again in August, and then particularly as students return to school, to remind people about what it's all about, how it's benefiting Northland, and then really wanting to get teams. We had a couple of successful things, as mentioned last meeting, in terms of we have plenty of responses from Erie County employees to give us answers for the game itself. So that is set, which is wonderful. And we've got some initial donations in hand, which is great, but still no teams at this point. And that's really the whole point, is to build the teams, and, make it fun, and hopefully then drive more donations and traffic and interest and all that. So that's really what we're really going to want to push, especially as the summer goes on. But what I can ask of everyone is just, please, as you start to see those posts, share it, even if you yourself aren't interested and or don't feel like donating, that's fine. But if it can at least spread the word, because there's somebody else who may want to play the game. Again, it's done online. It's going to be a ton of fun, and to get a prize for yourself and your 4 teammates to throw axes at catches and hops, I think pretty cool. That's just me. That really ends everything from the communication side of things. And then just briefly, I'll just say as president, while I don't have any updates to share since our last meeting, I just really want to extend my sincere thanks for everyone's help, the board, just say what a year it's been to have to go through the pandemic and now coming out on the other side. I had a couple of different goals when we first started, especially with networking, but like everyone, we had no idea how long things were going to extend with the pandemic. And once it did, what I had tried to do, and I hope it was apparent to everyone, was to pivot and say, okay, two things. One, how do we keep humming through all this, even though we're not going to be able to meet together? What can we do to stay active? And then number two, what sorts of seeds can be planted, especially with this unique position of leadership, to get things started that will help the chapter grow long term. And what I feel, to humble brag, I guess feel most proud of is just being able to implement things like our committees and getting people a little bit more engaged, especially with the conference planning, and getting that back this year was great with SUNY Buff State. So it's those things that when I look back on the past year, my goal, my sort of mission in this 1 year of being able to be president was just, let's keep going, let's stay active, and let's build a good foundation so that we can keep growing. And I think, looking back, even though we had so many challenges to overcome, it really was a great year. And I'm proud of the events that were put on. I'm proud of especially the board members. I mean, everybody stayed steady through the meetings and contributed. And now we're positioned, I think, as we'll see coming up soon with the elections, to keep on getting better and better and better. So really my honor, privilege to serve you guys. I won't be leaving. I mean, I'll be still around with the communications things, but I certainly will be breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. We kept it busy this year, and I hope I didn't overwhelm anybody, but again, I just want to say thanks for sticking through it, and things are looking up. So that is it's kind of my final remarks and my report as president. I will turn it over. We have Treasurer Ken. Hello, you're still with us here?
I am, and we still have $1,073.97 in our account.
Fantastic. And hopefully we'll be hearing something about rebates in the coming months, but I don't know. We'll have to stay tuned.
You have done a very good job this past year, Ken, of not spending all of the money that is in the bank account.
Well,
at the beginning
I'm
of the
very good
year.
at not spending money, yeah. $1,073, that only goes so far.
For those unfamiliar with our meetings and how things went, we stayed completely at level, so no dipping into funds or anything. So we were good, and thanks for continuing to monitor things, Ken.
You're welcome.
Officer, so Brian here. Me. Hi.
I'm going to stand up so you guys on Zoom can hear me. First of all, I want to take just a minute to thank Tony for his work. In this past year has been very, very difficult for all of us. Those of us who teach in the classroom, those of us who serve in government, those of us who manage and lead nonprofits, and those of us who provide the vision and the leadership for organizations such as ASPA. I want to just say that Tony has the heart of a great leader. In everything that we've done, I mean, it's been a challenge. I mean, there's been minefields and roadblocks, and we haven't been able to get this. This actually is the first time, probably in I think 14 months that we've been together, and while we've been together every month by a Zoom, nothing beats the energy of a room when people's hearts are close to each other, not through a TV screen. So I just want to tell you you're a kind man and an individual who I think represents what public service is all about. We all have a role to play. Leaders, they say leaders are either born or made or a combination thereof, but you, sir, have been a very, very effective leader. And coming from me, who teaches leadership, I'll tell you, you kept the irons to the fire, and you served this organization well, in spite of all of the craziness that the world, the world experienced. We got through it, and when we as a state hit that 70%, and we can come out of the foxhole, and even though we have to still be a little safe, I obviously we don't want to be irresponsible, but we can start getting back to whatever normalcy is going to be defined. So I just want to thank you for your leadership, and from the standpoint of membership, we're at 34 members. It's down from pre-pandemic numbers. We were at 40, but in looking at and crunching the numbers and kind of evaluating where we are, basically the numbers that we lost are our student population. We down seven students. We've maintained all of the professional members, but the student numbers are down, and I think that's indicative of the fact that from a classroom standpoint, we haven't been really able to have our hearts together. I mean, everything's been done, particularly from Hilbert's standpoint, virtually, and I think that going forward, we will get back to that ability to mentor and encourage students in person. And I think my goal over the course of the next year is at least to focus on redeeming the number of students, and so that will be the goal going forward. So I think all in all, while I would love to be able to report the fact that we added 10 new people to the polls, because going back 2 years ago, that was our vision, is to take us from 40 to 50. But I think all in all, we should be very proud and very happy with, we kind of got around those minefields, and I think going forward, I think we'll do a great job. So that's my report. 30, we've got 34. And by the way, we cleaned up the list. So I know over the past month we were looking at some folks that were on the roster that had been expired. I did reach out to everybody. There were, I think, four people that have not been able to turn some of those people around, particularly the student people. But going forward, I think I'm optimistic that we'll get back to that shooting for that goal of 50 people. So anyway, that's my.
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you for those kind words. I will say, to add on to his report, really that number dropped almost right away during when the first year started, because of the student memberships last week. So really, if you think about it, we have hovered all year long, in spite of the pandemic, at roughly 35, give or take a few, as it's gone on. So it's good to see that membership continues to hold steady despite all the challenges that we've had. So good job, and I know, again, with the pandemic clearing up, knock on wood, we got a lot of great opportunities ahead of us. In terms of Marissa is not here as secretary, but we did get her report. So, and she will, as mentioned, she's deep in wedding planning, and I believe going to be married by end of summer. So congrats to her. And we already spoke on committees. Brian, was there anything you wanted to add for the committee in particular, or?
Well, we have been meeting. I've been attempting to have a meeting every 6 weeks or so. I've got We have four fairly active individuals on that committee. And a lot of brainstorming, a lot of ideas, and we hope to be able to launch some things early in the spring. I mean, early in the fall to to encourage membership in the organization.
Brian, I just want to say on behalf of the MPA program, we committed to working with you on bringing the membership. You know, it's difficult, especially for I to be, most of the time during the semester, the time that we have meetings, I'm in a class or I'm trying to take care of something, but we are committed. So know that anything that your committee comes up with, I can be copied on it so that I can work with the student. And Mackenzie is on campus, so in the fall when we all come back, we'll make sure that she comes to every class, talk to the students, and we'll do what we have to. Yeah, more work. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajit. For programming, we don't have Chris here again. He's his son is graduating high school and with him tonight. I do know, and I've got here from my phone from the website that tomorrow he'll be running the second book club meeting, Public Administration Book Club on Zoom from 7 to 8. So if you're interested in joining it, even if you haven't read the book yet and you just want to come and chat, reach out to Chris and he'll get you the link. We actually, I gotta say, I was unable to make the last meeting, but I got the video. Thank you very much, Ken, for getting that recorded, and we posted that up on our website and on we do have a YouTube page actually too. And I wasn't able to watch all of it, but it seemed like it was a very fun and spirited discussion. So you guys have a really good thing started. This particular book will be How Cities Can Thrive in the Age of Populism by Bruce Katz and Jeremy Nowak. So good stuff. And that's happening tomorrow, 7 to 8 through Zoom. He's not here and they don't have a report, but I know a few of the people here are from the committee. Was there anything that you might want to report that happened? I'm not sure if you guys were able to meet on Monday or not. I see Ken has left, so kind of looking at you, Lori.
Oh,
were you guys able to meet? Oh, Ken's back.
Ken's back. I don't think I'm on that. I attended once to help out with Public Service Recognition Week, but I just want to say I missed about the second book. I didn't know. In fact, Maria and I were just talking on Saturday, and she was asking about when the next book club is, and I said, gee, I haven't gotten a notice. So was the notice with the general ASPA newsletter?
It was.
I see.
Yeah,
Sorry
we did
about
a
that.
social
So
media
I won't be
post on it.
attending because I didn't buy or read the book, but I did attend the last one. It was, I can vouch for it, the Divided States of America. It was a great discussion. Okay.
Okay.
And maybe we should just use the email list for the book club as well.
Yeah, and yeah, we do. In fact, it's a good reminder. And my apologies with everything going on. Forgot to do another shout out for that, but I can get a quick note out tomorrow morning for a reminder on that.
Yeah, it'd be good for a reminder.
So people know. So good. All right. So we're nearing the end here. We're now on to our last parts, and before we wrap up, so unfinished business. Brian, I'm presuming we're still holding steady.
Yes,
It's summer.
I don't know how long it took Michelangelo to lay on his back and paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. But boy, I'll tell you, they trying to do this journal, particularly in the past year, it has been a very arduous task. So we're holding steady. I'm still talking to people, but nothing definitive to.
Brian, would it make sense if we put together like a committee on that?
Well, I have been actually. I have been putting together some people, and I do want to reach out to Lori over at State, but we've got some folks not only from Hilbert, but from Niagara as well that have, and the librarians as well. So
okay.
It's just
I just want to make sure it wasn't just all falling on your shoulders.
Yeah. No, it's not just me. I've got other people, but it's been very difficult to kind of come to terms with it. There's a lot of ideas bouncing around, but trying to bring it down to a conclusion.
Thank you. So, hey, we're good there then? And then I've already talked actually about the Western New York Feud event, so more to come on that. And I just want to show our folks on Zoom because I realize they're only getting like part of the room. So everybody just want to wave and say hi. So there's more people than it appears on the screen. So anyway, so yeah, I guess you can fold my part on the event to what I discussed earlier. There's nothing more to add on that. So now the one of the last parts of the meeting, and certainly not least, are our elections for upcoming president-elect. And we actually have 5 board member seats. We have 4 for 2-year terms and 1 for a 1-year term, which was an open role. Chris Jones had resigned near the end of the year to focus on some other things. Certainly wishes us well, though. So we have those available. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Ray, who is our immediate past president and headed up our nominating committee to give a report on the recommended slate of officers, and then we'll run our elections. So, Brian?
All right, so for our recommended slate of officers, nomination committee is recommending reappointing Tony S. Strand for communication officer, Person Nold as secretary, Ken Stone as treasurer, Brian Polliner as membership officer, all as reappointments. We are recommending Ryan Gazzo and Maria Grozo Payne to be appointed to the board as new board members for 2-year terms. Recommending that Gordon Stewart and Michael Hughes be reappointed to the board for a 2-year term, and myself be appointed to the board for a 1-year term.
And then, of course, our president-elect. We have his.
Sorry.
President,
in recommending Chris Martello as our president-elect.
Wonderful. So that is our slate of officers as presented. And now to move on to the election portion, would like to make an open motion for anybody joining us online or anybody here present at the meeting. If there are any other nominations for any of the offices, the president-elect or any of the board member positions.
Tony, is there one more seat?
Yeah, there's one more seat.
I'm supposed to be appointing.
It will become available once Chris takes his position, so then it will be open for a year, and you'll be able to make that appointment for an interim to hold for the rest of the year until next election.
I think everybody's participating already, but I'm just throwing it out there if anybody's interested. There's going to be that one more spot.
Sure. Sounds good. All right, so having heard no further nominations, may I have a motion to accept the slate of officers as presented?
I move to accept the slate of officers by unanimous acclamation.
Okay, Ken?
I will second that.
And Rosie has seconded. All in favor of our our slate of officers as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Well, it's a great honor to have Chris on board, who will be starting in 2022 as a president. We're going to be in great hands with his energy. Wonderful to have Michael Hughes back, Gordon Stewart back, Brian, of course, to continue on with us in his role, and some new folks in Maria, who Maria was actually was my very first classmate way back in 2008 when I first started my long PA journey. So wonderful to see it like full circle here. And then Ryan Gatso, a lot of energy from both of them. So congratulations. It's going to be a great year ahead. Leads us to the last part, and very excited about this, is now to officially welcome our new president. So as of this moment now, I'm immediate pass the torch over to Mackenzie Doctor, who will be leading the charge. So welcome, Mackenzie.
Thank you, Tony. when I was preparing any remarks, that was really the main thing I wanted to focus on, what Ryan said earlier, is your leadership this past year. I know you didn't get everything done you wanted to, but you got a lot accomplished in a tough year. And but you led it, and I think you really put the infrastructure in place for ASPA to run more smoothly, to have all these things in motion where we're not losing track of one side of it. And I just think you've done a really good job. So I just wanted to point that out as well. But I think, this year we've been able to build on our communications a lot, our social media accounts, getting the word out, and doing the things we could do during COVID. And I think we've made a lot of advancements with that. And I'm excited to kind of switch now that we're getting back into life. Obviously with my position at Buffalo State, like, membership is going to be kind of the big push this coming year. I think I can have a lot of influence on that. I didn't have a lot of time this year to put into that, but I'm focusing on it this coming year as president. So I will be working with obviously our own internal MPA program and the Hilbert. I know you know Hilbert too. I'm sure you have the connections, and we'll get more student involvement and really work on our membership now that we've got all this stuff in place, kind of operating itself. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to work with you all.
Watching this, I have a way to spend part of that $1,073 to 23 cents or whatever that we've been holding on to. Is we need a gavel.
There you go.
I don't think it's going to cost all of that $1,000, but we need a gavel to be passed.
It's gonna be one of those squeaky gavels that it looks official, but then you hit it. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, so that's it. Thank you, everybody. We stretched on a little long, but we had a lot to accomplish. I don't know when our next board meeting is, because now it's on your shoulder.
Oh, I was gonna mention that. I think we'll take a break for July, and then we'll be back up in August. I think we got some things planned for the fall, so I think August will give us enough time to start getting the word out and give everybody a little break.
That sounds like a good plan. I like that.
Yeah, I think everyone.
So no, really, the future's looking up. We're in good hands. Good to see some new faces, and then hopefully, as we're getting all back, things like this, we're gonna have more members to come. So, again, what a year! So glad things are getting better from a health standpoint. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you all on Zoom who sticking around there, Gordy, Lori, Ken. Are we going to see any of you afterwards or no? Or for the Irishman? You okay? No. All right, awesome, Ken. Thank you. So speaking of which, everyone of course is welcome. The Irishman is not too far from here on Main Street in Williamsville, 5601. So if you've got the time and you're so inclined, please follow us down en masse to go celebrate and have a drink or two or three. Probably not more than three. That would be a little dangerous.
There's only ever two.
But anyways, no, it's a glorious night right now, and I'm sure on a Wednesday we're actually going to have some room to sit. So so please, if you've got the time, come on and enjoy it. Let's toast to a great year and years to come. And of course, please, we have plenty of food and munchies and drinks left, so take some home with you if you are just heading straight home. So with that, I will, I guess, final act as president, although actually, no, it's to you now, Mackenzie, to make a call to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh.
That's all you got.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you.
And I'll or no, well, they ask for it, and then I'll motion. I'll make the motion to adjourn it.
Second.
I'll second.
And seconded by Ryan. Hey, there you go. All in favor of adjourning the meeting. I'm not even going to ask for opposing. Thank you, everybody. Congratulations. Oh, that was fun, hybrid style. All right. Oh, we have chats in here. Oh, Mike's saying he had to run to another. Oh, and we had Ari Knox, who I believe she's out of state but friends with Oz. I'll have to tell him that. So,
Yeah. There you go.
All
Thanks,
right.
Tony. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, everyone. Hope to
Thank
see you in
you.
person soon. And I
Take me a
hope
little
for you.
longer to get there, but I'll get there.
All right.
Okay,
Take care,
end the meeting.
everybody. Bye.
Take care.